The sun was setting over Riyadh's skyline as Cristiano Ronaldo finished another intense training session with Al Nassr. His muscles were sore, but there was a slight smile on his face. He'd scored some incredible goals during practice. As he walked to his Rolls-Royce, his stomach growled. Despite following a strict diet for years, tonight felt different. He craved something he hadn't had in ages, a good old-fashioned McDonald's burger. Just this once, he thought to himself, remembering how his nutritionist would probably give him an hour-long lecture about it. But even football legends have their moments of weakness, right? The streets of Riyadh were quieter than usual. The evening prayer had just finished, and the city was slowly coming back to life. Ronaldo drove past the luxurious buildings, his mind wandering to his journey from the small island of Madeira to becoming one of football's greatest stars. The air conditioning in his car was fighting against the lingering heat of the Arabian evening. His GPS showed several McDonald's locations, but he picked one in a less crowded area of the city. He'd learned over the years that sometimes the quieter spots were the best for avoiding too much attention. As he turned the corner, the familiar golden arches lit up the darkening sky. But something else caught his eye. A small figure standing near the entrance. A boy, probably no more than 12, was wearing what looked like an old Real Madrid jersey with Ronaldo's number 7. The boy wasn't just any regular customer. He had a small box of tissues in his hands, offering them to people walking by. Some passed without a glance, others gave a kind smile but walked on. Yet the boy maintained his dignity, standing tall despite the obvious struggle. Through his tinted windows, Ronaldo observed the scene. The boy's jersey was worn out, probably a knockoff version, but he wore it with such pride. It reminded Ronaldo of his own childhood, when he would kick a makeshift ball through the streets of Funchal, dreaming of playing in big stadiums. His security team, following in another car, was already signaling that they should find another location. It was their job to keep things simple and avoid any complications. But something in Ronaldo's gut told him to stay. This wasn't just about getting a burger anymore. He watched as the boy wiped his forehead with his sleeve, probably tired from standing for hours in the heat. Yet there was determination in his stance, the kind Ronaldo recognized all too well. The determination of someone who refuses to give up, no matter how tough things get. The scene stirred something deep inside him. Here he was, sitting in a car that cost more than most people would earn in a lifetime, while this young fan was out here, working hard just to help his family make ends meet. The contrast wasn't lost on him. His phone buzzed, probably his agent wondering why he'd taken a detour from his usual route home. But Ronaldo had already made up his mind. Sometimes life puts you in places for a reason, and he felt this was one of those moments. As he put his hand on the door handle, his security team's earpieces crackled with concern. But Ronaldo knew what he was about to do would change not just this boy's evening, but possibly his entire life. What happened next would become a story that would touch hearts around the world, proving that sometimes the biggest moments in life happen in the most unexpected places, even in a McDonald's parking lot in Riyadh. The young boy didn't notice the expensive car that had pulled into the parking lot. His mind was elsewhere, counting the few coins he'd earned that evening. The tissue boxes felt heavier as the night grew longer, but he couldn't go home yet. His little sister needed new school books, and he promised to help. He'd been standing in this spot for almost 6 months now. The McDonald's staff knew him well enough to let him use their bathroom, and sometimes even gave him leftover food at closing time. They called him the football boy because of his worn Ronaldo jersey, a precious gift from his uncle who'd saved up for months to buy it from a local market. The jersey wasn't real, but his love for football was. Every morning before coming here, he would practice his football skills in the small alley behind his house. He'd drawn a goal on the wall with chalk and would kick a makeshift ball for hours, imagining he was playing alongside his hero at the Bernabeu. Tonight was slower than usual. The heat had kept many people indoors, and those who did come to McDonald's hurried inside without a second glance. But he didn't mind. His father had taught him that honest work, no matter how small, was better than no work at all. He pulled out his phone, an old model with a cracked screen, and opened a saved YouTube video of Ronaldo's best goals. He'd watched it hundreds of times, studying every movement, every celebration. The video buffered constantly, but he knew every second by heart anyway. A cool breeze finally offered some relief from the heat, making his jersey flutter slightly. He remembered watching Al Nassr's last match on the small TV in his neighbor's shop. Ronaldo had scored twice, and everyone in the shop had erupted in celebration. For a moment, he'd felt like he was actually there in the stadium. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of car doors closing. He quickly put his phone away and held up his tissue boxes, ready to make his sales pitch to whoever was walking by. But when he looked up, his heart stopped. The world around him seemed to freeze. Standing just a few feet away was the man he'd seen countless times on his phone screen, the player whose poster covered the wall above his bed, the legend whose moves he practiced every morning. Cristiano Ronaldo himself was walking towards him with that familiar smile. The tissue boxes nearly slipped from his trembling hands. His legs felt weak, and his mouth went dry. Was he dreaming? Had the heat finally gotten to him? He blinked hard, but the figure didn't disappear. If anything, it got clearer as it came closer. He wanted to say something, anything, but no words came out. Years of practicing what he'd say if he ever met Ronaldo vanished from his memory. Tears started forming in his eyes, but he fought them back. He didn't want his hero to see him cry, even if they were tears of joy. The evening traffic continued around them, but for the boy, time had stopped. The golden arches of McDonald's cast a warm glow over the scene, as if lighting up a stage for what was about to become the most incredible moment of his young life. Little did he know, this chance encounter would change everything, not just for him, but for his entire family. Something clicked in Ronaldo's mind as he walked closer to the boy. The determined look in those young eyes, the way he stood proudly despite his circumstances, it was like looking into a mirror from the past. He remembered his own childhood in Madeira, where his family had struggled to make ends meet. His security team hovered nearby, ready to step in at any moment. But Ronaldo waved them back slightly. He'd been in countless stadiums, met thousands of fans, but this felt different. This wasn't about autographs or selfies. This was about something more real, more meaningful. The boy's hands were shaking as he clutched his tissue boxes. His jersey, though faded and worn, was clean and carefully maintained. It was the old Real Madrid design from several seasons ago, back when Ronaldo was still creating magic at the Bernabeu. The number 7 on the back was slightly peeling, but still proudly visible. As Ronaldo got closer, he noticed other details: the boy's worn-out shoes that had clearly been repaired multiple times, the careful way he'd organized his tissue boxes, and most importantly, the look of pure determination in his eyes. It was the same look Ronaldo had seen in his own reflection years ago, when he promised himself he would change his family's life through football. The evening air was still warm, but a gentle breeze carried the smell of cooking from the McDonald's kitchen. Other customers were starting to notice, pulling out their phones to record what was happening. But Ronaldo stayed focused on the boy in front of him, who looked like he might faint at any moment. "That's a nice jersey you're wearing," Ronaldo said softly in English, hoping the boy would understand. The security team's translator stepped forward, but something amazing happened. The boy, finding courage from somewhere deep inside, responded in broken but understandable English. You are my hero," the boy managed to say, his voice barely a whisper. "I watch all your games. I practice like you every morning. I want to be like you." Each word seemed to take all his strength, but they came straight from his heart. Ronaldo felt something stir inside him. How many times had he said similar words as a child? How many posters had he stared at, dreaming of becoming a professional footballer? The universe had a funny way of bringing things full circle. He noticed a small notebook sticking out of the boy's pocket, the kind students use for schoolwork. But when the boy nervously pulled it out, Ronaldo saw it was filled with drawings of football plays and practice drills, copied from watching videos online. Some pages had calculations in the margins, the day's earnings from selling tissues, carefully counted and recorded. The crowd around them was growing larger, but Ronaldo remained focused on the boy. He saw himself in those hopeful eyes. The same dreams, the same determination, the same willingness to work hard, no matter what life threw at him. This wasn't just another fan meeting. This was a moment of recognition, a chance to help someone who reminded him so much of his younger self. As the golden arches of McDonald's continued to shine above them, Ronaldo made a decision. He hadn't come here planning to change someone's life, but sometimes the best moments happen when we least expect them. What he was about to do next would show the world that sometimes the biggest victories happen far away from any football field. The McDonald's parking lot had become surprisingly quiet, despite the growing crowd of onlookers. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath, watching the scene unfold between the football superstar and the young tissue seller. Even the usually busy drive-thru had slowed down as customers and staff tried to catch a glimpse of what was happening. Ronaldo's security team had formed a loose circle around them, but they couldn't stop people from taking videos on their phones. The boy noticed none of this. His eyes were fixed on his hero, still struggling to believe this was real. "Show me how you practice," Ronaldo said warmly, pointing to a clear space in the parking lot. The boy's eyes widened in surprise. For a moment, he stood frozen, but then something incredible happened. His love for football overcame his nervousness. The boy carefully put down his tissue boxes and pulled out a small ball from his backpack. It was old and patched up, but the way he handled it showed how much he treasured it. The security team exchanged glances, but Ronaldo had already created space for an impromptu training session. Under the glow of the street lights, the boy started showing his skills. His movements were raw but full of passion. He did his best version of Ronaldo's famous stepovers, then attempted a couple of tricks he learned from watching YouTube videos. His shoes might have been worn out, but his spirit was unbreakable. Ronaldo watched with genuine interest. He saw how the boy had adapted his techniques to practice in small spaces, how he developed his own style despite having no formal training. It reminded him of his own childhood days in Madeira, practicing with a makeshift ball in the streets. "Now let me show you something," Ronaldo said, taking off his designer jacket and placing it carefully aside. The crowd gasped as one of the world's highest-paid athletes started a casual training session in a McDonald's parking lot. The boy's eyes lit up as Ronaldo demonstrated the proper way to perform some basic skills. "It's all about practice," Ronaldo explained, showing him how to position his feet. "I still practice these same moves every day." The boy nodded eagerly, trying to copy every movement exactly. When he stumbled, Ronaldo helped him up with a gentle pat on the back. They spent several minutes like this, the superstar and the young fan, sharing a pure moment of football joy. Ronaldo showed him tricks to improve his balance, ways to control the ball better, and most importantly, how to believe in himself. The boy absorbed every word, every movement, like his life depended on it. The scene touched everyone watching. Here was Cristiano Ronaldo, known for his intense competitiveness and perfectionism, taking time to teach a young boy in a fast food parking lot. There were no cameras from major sports networks, no publicity teams, just a genuine moment between two people who shared the same passion for football. As they practiced, Ronaldo asked the boy about his life, his family, and his dreams. The translator helped when needed, but most of their communication happened through the universal language of football. The boy's eyes grew more confident with each passing minute, his movements became more assured. The evening had turned into something magical, but Ronaldo wasn't finished yet. What happened next would prove that sometimes the biggest dreams come true in the most unexpected places, and that true greatness isn't just about what you achieve, but also about how you help others achieve their dreams. After their impromptu training session, Ronaldo and the boy sat on a nearby bench. The football superstar hadn't even gone into McDonald's yet, but he'd forgotten all about his hunger. Something more important was happening here. Through his translator, he began asking the boy about his life. The story that unfolded touched Ronaldo deeply. The boy explained how he went to school in the morning, then came here every evening to sell tissues. His father worked long hours as a construction worker, and his mother took care of his younger siblings. The tissue money helped buy school supplies and sometimes medicine for his grandmother. "But you still find time to practice football?" Ronaldo asked, genuinely impressed. The boy nodded eagerly, explaining how he woke up at 5 a.m. every morning to practice in the alley behind his house before school. He'd drawn a goal on the wall and used rocks as cones for dribbling practice. The crowd around them had grown, but they maintained a respectful distance, sensing the importance of this moment. Even Ronaldo's security team stood back, touched by the conversation unfolding before them. The boy reached into his backpack and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. It was a report card from his school. Despite his long hours working, he maintained good grades. "I study hard," he said in broken English, like you work hard in football. His teacher had written a note praising his determination. Ronaldo felt his throat tighten. He remembered his own school days, how he'd struggled to balance his passion for football with his studies. This boy wasn't just selling tissues, he was fighting for his future on multiple fronts. "What's your biggest dream?" Ronaldo asked softly. The boy's eyes sparkled as he answered without hesitation, "To play professional football and help my family." It wasn't just about becoming famous or rich, it was about changing his family's life, just as Ronaldo had done years ago. The boy then shared something that left everyone speechless. He pulled out a small tin can from his backpack. Inside were his savings from selling tissues. "I save a little every day," he explained through the translator, "to buy proper football boots one day." The current ones he wore were 2 sizes too big, handed down from a cousin. Ronaldo examined the worn shoes on the boy's feet, then looked at his own expensive football boots in his gym bag. The contrast struck him hard. He remembered the feeling of getting his first proper pair of boots, how it felt like having wings on his feet. The McDonald's lights continued to shine above them, but now they seemed to spotlight a moment of pure human connection. He was a boy who had every reason to give up on his dreams, yet he fought for them every single day. He didn't just wear Ronaldo's jersey. He lived by the same values of hard work and determination that had taken Ronaldo to the top. People often asked Ronaldo about his greatest moments in football. They expected stories about Champions League finals or World Cup matches. But sitting here, listening to this young boy's story, he was experiencing something just as meaningful. This wasn't about football anymore. It was about hope, determination, and the power of never giving up on your dreams. As the evening air grew cooler, Ronaldo made a decision. He hadn't come to McDonald's planning to change someone's life, but sometimes the most important moments come when we least expect them. What he was about to do next would show the world that true greatness isn't measured by trophies or goals, but by how we help others achieve their dreams. Ronaldo pulled out his phone, his fingers moving with purpose. The boy watched curiously as the football star made a call, speaking rapidly in Portuguese. The translator stood nearby, but this wasn't a conversation that needed translation. The energy in Ronaldo's voice said it all. On the other end of the line was the youth academy director of Al Nassr. It was nearly 9 p.m., but Ronaldo knew he'd pick up. "I found someone special," he said, pacing back and forth in the McDonald's parking lot. "I need your help to make something happen." The boy couldn't understand the words, but he saw how Ronaldo gestured while talking, how his eyes lit up with excitement. The crowd around them had grown even larger, but they remained at a respectful distance, sensing they were witnessing something extraordinary. After finishing the call, Ronaldo turned to his personal assistant, speaking quickly and decisively. More phone calls were made. Papers were drafted on phones and tablets. The boy watched in amazement as his hero turned the parking lot into an impromptu office. Then Ronaldo turned to him with that familiar smile. Through the translator, he explained what was about to happen. The boy's eyes grew wider with each sentence. His hands started trembling again, but this time with pure joy. First, Ronaldo had arranged for him to join Al Nassr's youth academy, not just for a day or a week, but as a full-time student athlete. He would receive proper training, equipment, and education. The club would take care of everything, from boots to training gear to school supplies. But Ronaldo wasn't finished. He understood that for the boy to focus on his dreams, his family needed support too. Through his connections, he'd arranged for the boy's father to get a better job at one of the city's top construction companies. His mother would receive support to start a small business she'd always dreamed about. The boy's tissue-selling days were over. Instead of standing outside McDonald's every evening, he would be training on professional fields, learning from top coaches, and getting a proper education. His family would have a new apartment closer to the academy, and his siblings would have access to better schools. Tears rolled down the boy's cheeks as the translator explained everything. He tried to thank Ronaldo, but words failed him. Instead, he did something that surprised everyone. He held out his tissue boxes to Ronaldo, offering them as a gift. It was all he had to give. Ronaldo took the tissues with the same respect he'd show receiving a trophy. He understood what they represented: the boy's hard work, his dignity, his dreams. The security team wasn't even trying to hide their emotions anymore. Several were openly wiping their eyes. The McDonald's staff had come outside to watch, still in their uniforms. Phones recorded the moment, but no video could capture the pure emotion in the air. This wasn't a publicity stunt or a planned event. This was real life, changing right before their eyes. Ronaldo took one of the official Al Nassr jerseys from his gym bag, the one he'd worn in his last match. He signed it and handed it to the boy, but not before removing something from his own neck. It was a small silver pendant, one he'd worn for luck in countless matches. He placed it in the boy's hand, closing his fingers around it. Remember, Ronaldo said, making sure the translator conveyed every word, success isn't about where you start. It's about how hard you work and how much you believe. I started with nothing but a dream too. Now it's your turn to show the world what you can do. News of what happened in that McDonald's parking lot spread faster than anyone expected. Not because Ronaldo's PR team announced it, they hadn't, but because the story touched people's hearts in a way that few things do. The videos taken by onlookers went viral, but they only told part of the story. What cameras couldn't capture was how this moment changed lives far beyond that evening. The boy's first day at the Al Nassr Youth Academy was just the beginning. His new coaches quickly discovered what Ronaldo had seen that night, raw talent shaped by determination. The proper boots they gave him weren't magic, but to him, they felt like they were. Every morning, he arrived first at training, just as he used to wake up early to practice in the alley. His family's life transformed too. His father's new job meant no more 16-hour workdays. His mother's small business, a local food stand, became known in the neighborhood for its delicious home-cooked meals. His siblings got to focus on school instead of worrying about tomorrow's meals. But the ripple effect went far beyond one family. Other football academies in the region started looking more closely at kids from struggling backgrounds. They realized talent could be found anywhere, even outside a McDonald's, selling tissues to help their families. The McDonald's where it all happened became a special place. People would point it out to visitors. That's where Ronaldo changed a boy's life. The staff put up a small photo on their wall, not of the viral moment, but of the boy's first game in the youth league, wearing his academy jersey with pride. The tissue boxes Ronaldo received, he kept them in his office at home, next to his Ballon d'Or trophies. When reporters asked about them during interviews, he'd smile and tell the story. Not to brag about his generosity, but to remind people that sometimes the biggest victories happen off the field. The boy still had his old Ronaldo jersey, now framed on his wall alongside his new academy uniform. But more importantly, he kept the silver pendant Ronaldo had given him. It wasn't worth much in money, but its value lay in what it represented, a moment when dreams became reality. Months later, during an Al Nassr match, Ronaldo scored a crucial goal. As he did his famous celebration, cameras caught a glimpse of something new around his neck, a small tissue box charm, custom-made to remember that evening. The boy, watching from the academy stands, touched his own pendant and smiled. The story could have ended there, a beautiful moment frozen in time. But it didn't. Instead, it sparked a movement. Other football stars began looking for ways to help talented kids in their communities. Small academies started scholarship programs. Local businesses offered support to young athletes from struggling families. People often debate what makes a true legend in sports. Is it the number of trophies, the goals scored, the records broken? But sometimes it's the moments that happen away from the spotlight, like a chance encounter in a McDonald's parking lot, that truly define greatness. Years later, when people would ask the boy about that evening, he wouldn't talk about getting a signed jersey or meeting his hero. Instead, he'd talk about how one person's kindness can light up the world for others, how sometimes the biggest dreams come true in the most unexpected places, and how the real magic of football isn't just in scoring goals, but in changing lives, one moment of kindness at a time.